So, I have a question. Have you seen this video yet? It's an older video with Sydney Sweeney saying that she's got great genes, and obviously it's meant to show how voluptuous she is and how wonderful her, well, technically the jeans part is being spelled with a J like the actual clothing apparel, but the pun is 100% meant to elicit something else. And there's only really a few popular movements over the years that cared a lot about what kind of genes you had. Now, we'll look into the video itself here in a second to kind of get context for how any controversy even came from this to begin with, but apparently she's walking it back now a little bit. I'll walk it back. You're flatter than a trading card. Literally nobody wants to see that. Get out of my office. I mean, seriously, does anybody even like them? He? It? I don't know. I've no idea the gender of that thing. You could ask. No. Alrighty, if you are new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Suris, and I try to cover politics in a fair and even-handed way, though I do tend to lean a lot more left. That said, if you value that, then please consider subscribing to my channel and maybe letting a couple of friends know what I'm doing over here. And as the beginning of the video showcased, we have a topic for today, and that is Sydney Sweeney. Now, we're going to look at the original ad. We're going to give some context as to how that ad got interpreted by wider audiences, and then we'll be looking at how Matt Walsh is responding to all of this, because there have been some new developments here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got with the original ad.
I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney has great jeans.
You see what I did there, right?
So there's the advertisement in full, and there's two puns going on here. One is obviously the reverse psychology one where she goes, hey, did you see what I did there? When she's telling you not to buy the jeans, but, you know, you're going to buy the jeans anyway. But the other double entendre there is also Sydney Sweeney has great jeans when they're talking about the jeans she's wearing all over her body, but they're also showing off her assets, so they're talking about her genetics. Honestly, it's the kind of really dumb humor that you say in an edgy group with some friends. When it makes it to a giant advertisement, then people start getting opinions about your brand and what you might stand for. And, well, that kinda happened.
A well-known clothing retailer is getting caught up in cultural politics. Some people complain the new ad by American Eagle featuring actress Sydney Sweeney sent an offensive message. CBS's Jolene Kent looks at the controversy sparked by just 5 words.
Sydney Sweeney has great jeans.
You see what I did there, right?
That play on words, jeans and jeans, kickstarted a cultural firestorm with American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney at the center.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Critics have accused the ad of playing up eugenics, that Sweeney's white skin color, blonde hair, and blue eyes were greater than other genes.
I went and saw it.
That's Nazi propaganda. Wow.
Those Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ads are weird, like fascist weird.
Others have called the negative reaction overblown, and support for the ad now extends to the White House.
Yeah, my political advice to the Democrats is continue to tell everybody who thinks Sydney Sweeney is attractive is a Nazi. that appears to be their actual strategy.
That includes President Trump calling it the hottest ad out there and praising Sweeney's reported political leanings.
If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic.
American Eagle responded to the backlash Friday, writing Sydney Sweeney has great genes is and always was about the genes.
Now, I wanted to play the whole bit from that news article because that's how a lot of the news about this kind of was around the time, and the elaborations from this are all just kind of silly. Like, if you look here where you see American Eagle saying that, oh, well, it's always been about the genes. Well, yes, but you You did the double entendre, you did the pun, you knew exactly what you were doing, you wanted an ad that leaned heavily into controversy, and you decided to pick Eugenics as the controversy that would do this. If you've ever been part of a marketing discussion, this is exactly what a marketing team would want to do. Do you want people talking about American Eagle jeans who normally would not be talking about them? Then you make an ad like this. And even if it gets a bunch of people angry, people are talking about your thing, and half the country is going to end up buying them because ostensibly half the country is supposed to be conservative or something, right? So that's the conversation that's going to be happening in a marketing team's group. They're going to be trying to figure out how much money will we lose from this ad campaign, and how much money will we gain from this ad campaign? Now, as far as Sydney Sweeney's personal beliefs, I don't think that this ad has any bearing on her own personal beliefs, because if you've ever done advertising before, if you've ever sat down and been given a script to read before, you don't always agree with all the motivations of the character that you play on screen, even if that character is a facsimile of yourself. At the end of the day, it's a paycheck and a job, and while a conversation can be had about how responsible it is to take part in that particular job here, the end result is still the same. American Eagle sells a bunch of jeans. And if we look at the stock prices for American Eagle, we can see that their stock prices went up by about 30 or 40% around the time this ad came out. So it's almost as if this was a marketing campaign to get people talking about their product, and it worked. Everybody on all sides of the aisle talking about it effectively fell for the bait. I don't know if American Eagle as a company has Nazi roots, and I don't know whether or not it actually matters in this case. At the end of the day, they managed to stir up controversy, and it worked. But the more interesting thing to me is not what motivated the company, but the people who decided to come out and start talking about this. Now, obviously, you've got people on the left who are very predisposed to point out Nazi dog whistles because it's a thing that we've been trying to let you guys understand for a very long time. And then you've got people on the right who will sweep all this under the rug because it makes the libs mad, and that makes them incredibly happy. And again, the real victor here was always going to be American Eagle. To them, it is a numbers game. It has nothing to do with ideology. Their ideology is dollar signs. And they knew that this was something that could stir up a ton of conversation, and it fucking worked. But then, of course, Sydney Sweeney decided to talk about the entire fiasco herself, and we've got that clip right here.
Criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like, white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like, that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
And that's very much the controlled response that a PR manager would tell you to do. Don't defend yourself in these conversations. Use the more Machiavellian approach. Say, hey, when it comes time for me to say my piece, I will and you will listen, which is a thing that people say when they do not want to deal with a bunch of backlash, but instead are trying to make sure that they are tiptoeing around it. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's just a way that a PR manager would look at this. Say the thing that seems like you are coming from a state of, 100% control, but do not try to disparage either sides of the aisle while we figure out how we can work this into your image. But now we catch up to today, where Matt Walsh has opinions about this whole ordeal.
People has this. Sydney Sweeney is addressing her highly publicized American Eagle denim ad in an emotional interview with People. Came under fire, of course, for this ad. We know about that. Sweeney tells People, I was honestly surprised by the reaction. I did it because I love the jeans and love the brand. I don't support the views some people chose to connect to the campaign. Many have assigned motives and labels to me that just aren't true. Sweeney tells People she's someone who leads with kindness and that she's addressing the campaign backlash to clarify her stance and dispel negativity. Anyone who knows me knows that I always try to bring people together. I'm against hate and divisiveness. In the past, my stance has been to never respond to negative or positive press, but recently I've come to realize that my silence regarding this issue has only widened the divide, not closed it. So I hope this new year brings more focus on what connects us instead of what divides.
And again, that sounds like the standard response that a PR manager who has a better handle on things would give you. It's another kicking the can down the line type of response where you say, hey, once again, I will be talking about this, but I mean, you said that like 3-ish months ago, and we're here now in December, so you're going to be kicking the can down until 2026 again. Again, this is the kind of thing that a PR manager would try to push you to do in order to maintain an image and maintain brand affiliations that are both profitable for you and profitable for them as your agent or as your PR manager.
That's the backtrack, that's the walk back, that's the apology. Maybe not the full apology. That's like the lead up to the apology. That's the almost apology, the prologue to the apology.
Again, it's the same thing that she said last time, only with a little bit more context. Like I said, this is what happens when a PR manager is trying to figure out how can we use this best to our advantage. That's literally all this is.
And it's a hint that, so this coming year, I'm going to bring people together. So that means she's going to do a whole bunch of woke nonsense over the next year. That's her plan.
Okay, but what's woke nonsense? Because, like, this is the thing that I really want to ask. And, like, if you're in my comment section and you're more right-wing aligned, I want to know what your definition of woke nonsense is. Because I don't want to poison the well and say what my definition would be based on what I have observed, but I want to get y'all's opinions to see what we actually could like, see if y'all even have a coherent definition of what that term even means. And yeah, if you're on the left, obviously feel free to say what your opinion is as well, but I actually really value the opinion of right-wingers here, because when you call things woke disparagingly, that's almost always coming from one end of the political aisle.
And so Sydney Sweeney is not the based right-winger that many right-wingers had hoped that she would be. What changed? Well, nothing changed. To be totally clear, nothing has changed. People want to be accepted by their peers. Not excusing it at all, but that's what this is. Especially people in Hollywood, people in entertainment, they want to be adored and accepted and flattered by the people they respect, which are their fellow Hollywood elitists.
I don't know if it's about Hollywood elitists. I don't really know that that's the case, because this, again, feels like what any PR manager would do. Hey, there's a lot of controversy surrounding you right now. We can either ride that wave, or we can try to ride the middle. The way to ride the middle is to not comment on either side, and then to use a very, I guess the best way to put it would be like a pussyfooted response, where you say, I am against hate, without ever defining what hate is, or how that hate manifests, or how your advertisement did or did not bring about any such hate to begin with. Like, again, that is the safe response that one would do. I don't know what that has to do with being accepted by Hollywood elites and peers. This is how brand imaging works in general. I think an interesting thing for me here is how many people really wanted Sydney to be a, quote, based right-winger, which is just kind of a frustrating thought in general. Like, I don't need her politics to be one thing or another. I just would like her to not want to engage in a lot of harm. But that, in and of itself, ends up being a political statement already, so I don't know, whatever.
Sydney Sweeney does not want to be admired or praised by people like you or me. She doesn't want our approval. Our approval just made it worse for her, actually. That's the last thing she wants. So, she could stick to her guns and earn the adulation of right-wing Neanderthals like me, or she could back down and break her silence and say the words they want her to say and all that, and earn the praise of her fellow Hollywood degenerates, and she chose the latter.
Again, I feel like you've completely missed an entire section of the population there, because the way Matt Walsh frames it, there's only two people, the Hollywood elites and then the bog standard Republicans, who are all just, together and just having a great time, and they're all just normal folks. Now, I understand when you are a person who works for the Daily Wire, a company that was founded entirely because of the failed Hollywood aspirations of one Ben Shapiro. I can definitely see where the Hollywood elites rhetoric comes into play. That's not to say that Hollywood elites don't exist. They are millionaires and billionaires, and they are people with capital and resources that us actual normies don't fucking have. I get that. But you've completely ignored the left wing of the United States, and you've definitely ignored the moderate middle in the United States. You've ignored plenty of people who have opinions on this and were vocal about it, so that you can do an us versus them where it's the conservative normies, which definitely doesn't fucking include you, you're a multimillionaire, and the Hollywood elites, who are multimillionaires funded by a different media organization or organizations, plural. So, I mean, pot calls kettle black, I guess.
As they always do. I mean, as they always do. This is how it always ends. With these, and I'm kind of mad at myself because this was my instinct every time there's a celebrity who comes out and says something or does something vaguely conservative, and conservatives desperately like cling on to this person, clinging onto their legs, you know, just on the floor, praising them because we have someone in Hollywood who's indicated that maybe they don't completely hate us.
Hold on, Matt, just real quick. I have a very, very serious question. Why is talking about eugenics considered the conservative position? I thought that conservatives and left-wingers in general, like I thought conservatives and at least liberals, could all agree that eugenics was bad. When did that become the conservative position? Because if I am to follow your logic, the advertisement, which gave a soft endorsement towards the eugenics argument a little bit about how genes are passed down and mine are fantastic and look at my blonde hair and my blue eyes, and yeah, it looks really weird. Again, I'm not trying to say that she has one or another political opinion. I don't care about what's in her heart of hearts, Matt. What I care about is that the advertisement for dollars or donuts is a joke about eugenics. And when you say, oh, this person very vaguely signaled that maybe they were on the same side as us, that kind of implies that you're on the side of, you know, that word. And then you don't want people to call you, like, a Nazi, because that would be bad and inaccurate. And then you advocate for the movement that spearheaded the Nazi movement. A movement that they 100% took away from our own similarly labeled movement, but that is besides the point. The point is, I thought we were against that, generally speaking, as a species, because we learned better. Or are you trying to conserve something specifically from, like, 1920s and 1930s Americana that maybe should be left in the past?
Every time that happens, I've always been, as is my custom, the negative Nancy. I've always been the guy who says, yeah, this person's not really on our side. Just wait. They're going to, you wait and see. And that's always been my take. This was the one time where I sort of tried to be optimistic about it. This is the one time where I didn't do that. I said, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be that guy this time. Everyone is fawning over Sydney Sweeney. I'm not going to fawn over her. But I'll let them have their fun. I'm not going to be the guy who comes in and says, hey, by the way, she's definitely a leftist. Okay, she's going to break your heart. All right, she's going to turn around and apologize. It's going to happen, I'm telling you. And I didn't say that this time. This is the one time I didn't say it. This is the lesson I learned. The one time I decided to be somewhat optimistic, to not be totally negative all the time. The one time I decided. And she makes a fool of me too. So
the one time you decided not to be completely insufferable, you feel like you were punished about it because you found out that you were wrong and that you should be insufferable all the time. Weird take. I bet you're amazingly fun to have at parties, and I imagine the Thanksgiving conversations at your table are just riveting. Maybe the weirdest part to me is how invested Matt Walsh seems to be in this. Like, I get it. It's his job, much like it's my job. I normally don't give a shit about an advertisement like this, but of course the social backlash became its own story. But it's really weird seeing Matt Walsh goes, oh my god, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, really hot woman. I thought she was gonna be a right-winger, and then I found out she wasn't one. Nope, I do not want to know what your personal politics are. I like putting babies in blenders. Of course you do. Moving on.
Even though I never really bought it. I never bought the act, but and that's it. The thing that was probably definitive for her is when she had that now iconic interview with GQ and she gave her answer. The fact that, she's getting a lot of flack from the people that she actually likes, but the fact that she was praised so much by people on the right, that is probably what scared her the most. And then she went out and she had this movie that came out, and I forget the name of it, but it was a flop. And then I'm guessing that she went and hired a new publicist, and that publicist came in and said, well, the reason why it flopped is because everyone was upset about the American Eagle ad, which is not true at all, by the way. It's got nothing to do with it. So she gets this publicist, and then she puts out this very publicist-like statement about breaking the silence and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so here's a point where I think Matt Walsh actually has some saliency, because this is what happened. Like, she actually had box office flops after this. And I don't know if those flops were because of the advertisement, but, people do respond very negatively to this kind of stuff, especially when it comes to picking what movies that they want to watch. And so if you have negative PR around you, a PR manager will try to actually scrub your image clean for you. And this is one of the ways that they would end up doing it. Like, I get that. And this is one of those weird times where me and Matt Walsh actually kind of agree, because this does seem to be what the angle was. Again, I don't know what's in Sydney Sweeney's heart of hearts, and I don't know what's in the heart of hearts of the people who are in charge of American Eagle, other than the fact that you and I both know that they want money. But if stardom can sell movies, and it can, this is one of the reasons why Robert Downey Jr. was able to ask for so much money for his repeated entries into the MCU. If stardom can sell box office tickets, then it makes sense that you would need to make sure that that star is polished to a mirror shine. And a PR manager, I hate that I have to keep saying that, is going to do what they can to polish that image for you, to try to make it seem like you are more palatable to people. Now, to Matt Walsh's points about the Hollywood elites, I don't think it's as surface level as I just wanted my friends to like me more. I think it's about having a better public image that is easier to sell to not only brands, but is easier to sell to studios, because when studios are going through the drafting process for their scripts, a lot of times they won't even do casting calls for certain roles because they know who they want to have in those roles. If you want to be one of the people who is a guaranteed contact for a role before casting calls officially get announced for any project, then you want to have yourself put into the best, most opportune position possible. And having a good image that looks really good on a PR campaign is a good way to make that happen. So while me and Matt might agree that there are motivations within Hollywood for doing this, it's not the same thing as, oh, I just wanted my friends to like me more in Hollywood. They are the elites and I need to aspire to the aristocrats. No, I think it's just as simple as this is the kind of thing you do when you want a job. You know how you feel like maybe your public Twitter account needs to get scrubbed before you put in a job resume to your dream job? It's basically that.
And that's it. And that's the way it always goes. And that's why, the only Hollywood actors and celebrities who ever fully become quote unquote right wing and just embrace it, and they start doing the Fox News hits and all that kind of stuff, the only ones who ever do that are the ones who've already washed out of Hollywood. Right? Maybe there might be a few exceptions, but almost all. I'll say almost always.
Yeah, that's not exactly a great look, though. The only people who have these weird, regressive, conservative opinions are the ones who tried to make it in Hollywood and failed. Kind of like your boss. Weird, right?
The Hollywood celebrities who become fully out of the closet right-wingers are the ones who their career's over anyway, kind of fell apart. They washed out. They're past their prime. And then they figure, well, I've already lost the praise of my peers because I'm not relevant anymore. And so I might as well go on Fox News and at least get praise that way. And so that's what they end up doing. But when you've got a celebrity who is still like in her prime, she's still on red carpets and still a big celebrity, those types are just not, they're there's yet to be one who's actually come out and said, hey, I'm a conservative and I'm proud of it. It just doesn't happen.
Okay, but can you also figure a couple of things here? In your assessment, it's Hollywood actors who are, past their prime, people who maybe have aged out of Hollywood because there's fewer roles for older people in Hollywood than there are for younger people, especially when it comes to starring roles. Could it be that those people are simply more conservative because they are older and they crave a very more simplistic version of the world that they grew up in that never truly existed, but they didn't have awareness of it yet? Like, I feel like that's how a lot of conservatives are. It's that they really want to protect what is their own, and they view the world as a thing that is incredibly simple because that's the world that they grew up in, because we all grew up in a relatively simplistic world compared to the world that we live in today. And that doesn't mean the world got more complicated. It didn't. It's just that the more you learn about the world, the more complex you realize the systems of the world are. The more complex the social paradigms are, the more complex the conversations get, and the more complex things like science seem to become the higher up the rungs you go and the longer you sit with them. Honestly, it feels to me like Matt is saying that as somebody gets older, they become more conservative, which is like the coldest take in the world, even if it's not exactly 100% true. But he also kind of paints everybody in Hollywood as some kind of like grifter, where they want the adoration and praise for their narcissistic personalities while they have stardom, and then when they leave Hollywood, they want to get that same praise, so they go onto Fox News where they're guaranteed to get it more because the disenfranchised liberal that turned conservative is such a popular trope with them. And you know what? I don't doubt that there's some truth to that. The part that I find far more interesting about all of this is why the fuck you care. Like, why does it matter? Kevin Sorbo's irrelevant now, and yet you just described Kevin Sorbo. You also, again, described your boss, failed to get his script actually pushed through in Hollywood, and now he runs, the Daily Wire. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but from my perspective, I just find the whole fascination with Sydney weird. Like, yeah, she's an attractive woman. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of those on every continent. Desperately needing this one woman to be a right-winger for you because she participated in an ad campaign that was literally built to spark outrage feels really fucking weird. But again, I want to know y'all's takes. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. I know this was a less research-heavy episode than normal, but at the same time, it's Matt Walsh. It doesn't take much when it comes to him. Anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And hey, maybe consider checking out my secondary channel, the news channel, where I try to cover more relevant news as it's happening and not just do video responses. And maybe check out my Magic the Gathering channel as well, where I cover things that are not politics in an effort to stave off all of the horrors. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you being here. Credits are going to roll. We're going to celebrate people who have subscribed on Patreon and stuff. I don't know. Insert end of video tagline here. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.